American Football Institute sports channel with former National Football League defensive tackle and now an NFL consultant, Chris Mamalanga.
Hello, my name is Chris Mamalanga. Welcome to the show. This is the American Football Institute weekly Wednesday show. Today is 4/20 or April 20th, 2022, and I'm super excited. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe and like our page. We're on Facebook and YouTube. Today we have a special guest. We've been having a lot of players, college and high school players on. We've had a few coaches on. Today is a near and dear friend of mine who's also a coach, a former football player that I grew up with here in Southern California. He's a Mexican American, none other than Mr. Ricardo Camacho. How you doing,
Hey,
Rick?
good, great, Chris. How you doing?
Man, I'm just thankful for another one, man, and I'm
Uh,
thankful that you sacrificed some time in your schedule to spend a little bit of time with us this evening.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. It's an honor. It's an honor to be with you.
Well, I truly appreciate it, and although you and I are not only friends off the field, but we also are in a coaching fraternity together. We coached at a couple of different places. We'll kind of get into that a little bit here and there, but tonight it's all about you and
Yeah.
your feelings about American football. We'd like to get to know you a little bit. We'd like for you to share some of your wealth of knowledge, especially on the O-line position, which is arguably the foundation of any good team is
Uh,
definitely on the O line and the D line. Wouldn't you agree?
yes, I would, Chris. Definitely.
Definitely. And I know you have, although you didn't play yourself in the NFL, you coached kids and your own brother to reach the NFL, and also a lot of kids you get to college. And I have so much respect for the knowledge that you have and the passion, more importantly, that you have for helping kids to achieve their maximum potential. And that's kind of the foundational purpose of the American Football Institute is to assist folks here domestically and internationally that think that they like American football. We're here to help educate them and inspire them to continue that journey that you and I both have already crossed paths with. So, Camacho, without further ado, I'd like for you to please kind of introduce yourself, a little about you, yourself, and your family background. Obviously, I've already shared with the audience that you are a Mexican American, which is something to be proud of here in the USA and especially California. And I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Camacho.
Thanks, Chris. I grew up in Lenox, which is next to Inglewood. Um, Being a fellow football player, I went to Hawthorne High School, and then from Hawthorne High School, I went to junior college at Los Angeles Harbor College, and then I ended up playing at Cal State Northridge, which is a Big Sky Conference, which is a one double A.
Right. One of the things that is interesting, I think our audience will find very interesting, is that most Mexican Americans are not 6'4" and 6'5" and 6'7", and you have a lot of your brothers are all of them are above 6 feet. Can you talk a little bit
Yeah.
about being, I used to joke with your brother, David, who he and I, of course, as you know, played together in the XFL. But I used to say to David, it says, man, you're the largest Mexican I've ever seen, especially at 6'7". How do you guys get that
Yeah.
height as which is not, you know, I don't know every area of Mexico, but the Mexican friends that I do have, they're usually not 6'5" and 6'7". Can you talk a little bit
Well,
about that?
well, we ended up growing in part of our life in Mexicali, which is Mexico. It's next to Calexico, California, and my mom and my uncles are all over 6 feet. My uncles are 6'4", 6'5". So, in terms of our lineage, we come from a tall family.
Got it. Got it. I know when I first met David, your younger brother, I was just like, man, because we all grew up in Lenox, and we lived in Inglewood, and we moved from Inglewood to Lenox as kids. Um, but I'll never forget being over there at Lenox Park playing basketball, and your brother was always the tallest guy on the court.
That
Um,
that's one thing. My mom always kept us busy playing sports. We grew up in a gang-infested, drug-infested neighborhood, and my brother David, the way she kept him out of trouble was having him play sports. They had the Lennox Sheriffs, which they had programs there for boxing, basketball, baseball. So my mom kept them involved in those kind of sports.
and how many siblings? How many of you and your family?
There, there's five boys, including myself, and then my sister that still lives in Mexicali. My oldest brother is about 6'5", and then my brother David's 6'7". My brother Mario's about 6 feet, and then George is about 6'3", and then I'm about 6'3" and a half. So
Yeah, definitely got some good genes there. And can you talk a little bit about kind of how you started playing ball? I mean, you and I growing up in Lenox, football wasn't really a thing.
no, it
All
was.
the Tongans and the Samoans and Islanders played rugby. All the Mexicans played soccer. Somehow you and I and David, we all fell in love with football.
Well, it's my brother. When he started junior high, he was in a total of 8 different fights, and my mom, she didn't know how to keep him busy, so she asked me to play the game of football, and she wanted my me to encourage my brother because he always followed me everywhere we went to play football. And as we played football, we both fell in love with the passion of playing football. My older brother played at Hawthorne. We would go watch him play at Hawthorne High School with Curtis Conway, Travis Hanna. You talk about an Olympic track runner like Mike Marsh. I mean, there's a lot of football players that actually went
Chris
through Hawthorne High School.
Chris Alexander was on that
And
team
Chris,
too.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, UCLA product.
oh yeah,
Well, listen, I don't want to take any too much of your time because just with
no, it's
respect of your time and your
uh,
schedule. But I have a few questions that we put together. We're going to flash them up on the screen. And our first question is, did you always want to be a football player from a young age?
Well, I always wanted to follow in my two older brothers' footsteps. They both played football in Hawthorne High School, and to us, it was important to play football and to follow in their steps. So at a very young age, we were already going to Hawthorne High School, and our dream was to play college football. We ended up going the junior college route, but I think that was the most important thing that we did is go to the junior college route. In order for you to be successful, you have to have grades. At that time, you had to have SATs, and we weren't very strong, but we were mobile and we were fast, and we had a passion for the game. And when I talk about
Yeah,
myself, I have to talk about my younger brother David because he also played at Oklahoma State, and playing with him was very, very demanding. He was an All-American during preseason. He was at junior college. He was an All-American. Then at Oklahoma State, he was a Big 12 honorable mentions at Oklahoma State.
that's awesome. I know you played a big role in not only playing with, but also coaching him once he
Oh,
was getting ready to leave for Oklahoma State. What was that
oh
like
yeah.
coaching your brother to go to a Power Five conference in Oklahoma State? I know Les Miles
Oh.
was the person who one of the people who recruited him. Um, uh, what was that like coaching your little brother?
It's incredible. It was incredible. He was first devastated because he wanted his dream was to play at USC. They
Right.
recruited him highly. And then, believe it or not, he went to spend some time in Mexicali with my grandfather. And Oklahoma State's probably the only school that called Mexico trying to recruit him when he was out there for a month. And and coaching him, it brought to light that maybe that's what I want to do. Maybe it's being a coach is not just being a coach. You're being a father figure. You're being a mentor. You're being a friend to a lot of these kids, and helping my brother, getting him motivated to go to practice. Getting him in the weight room, make sure he was doing his classwork, his homework, and making sure he was doing everything the right way.
And he was able to reach the pro levels. I know you coached him right when he was growing up. growing up, but also to Oklahoma State, and then on to the Baltimore Ravens. And then I crossed paths with him
Uh,
in the XFL the first time around. Not the
yeah.
XFL now that The Rock and his ex-wife have purchased, but the XFL originally, what that was actually owned by Vince McMahon and the WWE, which was a heck of a of a league and very fun. I'll never forget, because we had gone our separate ways as kids. You guys went the JC route. I ended up going to Kansas, and I'll never forget the very first practice we had with the XFL team, which was called the New York, New Jersey Hitmen, and two guys from Lennox getting a fight in practice. You know, and it was so funny because neither one of us would back down. And then he saw my Jayhawk tattoo on my leg, and he was like, "Hey, aren't you Pepe's brother?" Talking about my little brother, because he remembered us from the basketball court. So very small world, and very, very exciting when kids from your own backyard end up making it at a high level as well, such as yourself and your brothers. We'll go on to,
Chris, it's
go ahead.
incredible. It's an incredible journey, but it's a lot of work and a lot of dedication, especially to play at the college level. You're waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then you don't get home from study hall till about 11 o'clock at night to do the same thing over again the next day. So it takes a lot of heart and a lot of passion.
Definitely. We'll go on to our next question, Camacho. What is it like for a Mexican American to play American football? I mean, we kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. Some of the Mexican Americans that I remember growing up were Max Montoya and what's the gentleman, the Hall of Famer from the Bengals,
Anthony Munoz.
Anthony Munoz. How would I forget that name? Hall of Famer, USC, Southern Cal High School. Um, were those some of the guys that you followed? I know for
Those
me, I like to follow guys that come from the islands just because we have some similarities. Who were some of the guys that you followed as a Mexican American in the
Uh,
NFL?
well, there was Anthony Munoz and Max Montoya. We idolized. I mean, we watched them, knowing that there were Mexican Americans playing in the game of football, and at that time
Right.
there was very little Mexican Americans playing in the NFL. But now it's actually expanded to where you see more Mexican Americans and even Mexicans playing in the NFL.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. You guys kind of benefited from seeing those guys go out there and grind it out and compete at a high level, and good stuff. We'll go on to our next question, Rick. What is one of the funniest things that's happened to you on the football field?
Well, we're this one game we were playing against Lusinger High School, which is our rivalry school, and what we
Lou
were
House.
doing, yeah, Lusinger. It's a big rivalry, and
Yeah.
we were running a counter, and I was a pulling tackle. So imagine my brother David collapsing the whole right side of the line, and then me pulling around to hit the linebacker. And the linebacker was named Aaron Williams. He ended up playing for USC as a defensive end, and I came around the corner and I hit him, and he just laid me out, Chris. And then my brother turned around and he looked at me and he picked me up. What happened to you, bro? What happened? And the only thing I could say is he got me, David. I mean, for a linebacker, I go, he got me and he pancaked me. And my brother was so upset when he was talking to himself in the huddle. And we came out the next play, and my brother, he didn't care what play it was. It's You could see it on the You could see it on the video. He went straight for Aaron Williams, and he decleated Aaron Williams, and you could see his feet up in the air when my brother hit him so hard. And that's one of my stories that I had to share with
Wow.
my younger brother. So
I tell kids all the time, especially anybody like your brother and like myself who struggled with, emotional anger issues and things like that, is football is a great outlet. You can go out there and personal penalty, personal foul, and all you get is 15 yards. You know, all you get is that little yellow flag. It's not like you're going to jail or anything, but
uh,
of course, you can take it too far. There are limits and there are boundaries, but football is one of those sports where you actually get celebrated for putting a smackdown on somebody, right?
Oh yeah, it's a violent sport, and you get to take advantage of it. Playing on the field and even at practice. And once you walk off that field, it's a whole different story. It's you leave whatever you left on the field, and then when you go to a locker room or you go home, that's the end of it, and you start again with that grind.
Right, definitely. Let's go on to our next question here. In your opinion, what makes a good American football player, Coach?
From a coach's point of view, it's and my coach would always say you have to have a good habit. It's you could show these kids how to play the sport, doing individual drills, doing hand drills, doing ladders, doing positioning. But if they don't have the habit and they don't have the heart, you can't teach them. That's one of the hardest things to do when it comes to teaching and coaching and even playing. It's those two things you cannot teach is habits and having the heart to play the sport.
Definitely. But habits can be developed. Would you agree? I mean, over
Yes,
time.
definitely. It's once you get, it might take a couple of weeks, but once they click and once they understand why we do this, then yes, you can develop that habit.
Nice. Great answer. I love that. Next question here, Rick. How do you deal with the pressure of being a football player? I know you've experienced it. I remember Hawthorne High School back in those days, especially you mentioned some big names like
Oh
Curtis
yeah,
Conway. Curtis Conway was a legend in our area in the South
oh
Bay,
yeah,
Inglewood region, especially at Hawthorne High School. You guys had some good years. Uh,
oh yeah.
how does somebody deal with those pressures of being a football player?
It's really difficult, Chris. You have a lot of football players that came from Hawthorne. I mean, we talk about Travis Hanna, you talk about Chris Alexander, you talk about all these phenomenal players, but there's also players like my brother, David Camacho. Then you talk about this guy named Renee Sandoval that played for Portland State, Daniel Dorsey, Ronnie Morissette, Tavita Mawala. You have all these Division One players, and even after that, you have Cameron Stevenson. He also played in the NFL. He came from Hawthorne, and it's this tremendous players that went to college. But it's nowadays it seems to change a little bit. A lot of people are not interested in playing football. Everybody wants to go to who's the number one school, and pressure is always there. It's how do you get better? How do you improve? How do you win? And you've always said as the best recruiting tool is winning. If you want great players to come to your school, you have to win. And that's
Right,
all you talk about. You talk about modern day, you talk about Loyola, you talk about St. John Bosco. How do you get kids to go there? You win. And that automatically brings all this. And there's a lot of pressure in the game of football. Some kids just play to play, but there's other kids that want to play at the next level. And
right.
that's probably, the ultimate goal. And everybody's dream is playing in the NFL. I mean, if you think about it, there's one out of 400 players make it to the NFL, and that's a lot. That's a lot, a big number.
No, not at all. Not at all. Actually, I think it's less than 1 in 400. Much less.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So they say out of all football players that play in the world, less than 2% will get a football scholarship.
Wow, that's
So
incredible.
congratulations, Mr. Camacho. You're part of that 2%.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, but it's. I mean, just to get a scholarship, but even the more pressure, even to start, that's a lot more work too.
Oh
It's
yeah,
getting there. Getting a scholarship, it's very difficult, but to start, that's even more demanding. In terms of pressure.
right. Let's check out our next question here, Mr. Camacho. Do you miss the game, and what do you miss most after football?
Well, of course, it's who doesn't miss playing sports? It's after 8 years of playing football in high school, junior college, and college. Yeah, do I miss it? Yes. At times, a lot of people don't know, but there's a lot of football players that go through depression, that don't know what to do after the sport. Where do you get a job? Do you continue finishing school? So it's very challenging. And I think,
Right.
it's what I loved about playing football was practice because you get to joke around with all the football linemen. In our locker room, all the linemen would sit together. In our lunch tables, all the linemen would sit together. At practice, we would stick together. If a fight broke out, we would be all together. I mean, that's what I miss about my football brothers.
So that camaraderie, because I mean, that's
Oh
really what it
yeah,
comes down to. Is that team camaraderie is very difficult to duplicate outside of that environment, right?
yes. And
Awesome,
I I
man.
I I I believe football sets you up for life too. Being on time to work, going through adversity, making sure you have a good work ethic, making being a team leader, being a team player. So it even after you stop playing, I mean, football is still a part of your life because, and if you decide to coach or you decide to go another route, especially coaching, it's you feel that you're at home again. You feel that, this is where I belong. This is my calling. This is what I want to do. So it's a beautiful thing that you're able to do. And there is life after football. It's if you feel that you want to coach at the high school level, at the junior college level, or at the collegiate level, or even in the pros, you're able to do that. I'll tell you, when I was a senior, Marcus Brady was a redshirt freshman, and he's now the offensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts. So, is there life after football? Yeah, there is, and you could continue to do it if you choose to do it. Especially with coaching.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll go on to our next question, Coach. What are you doing now with coaching in football?
Well, I've coached about maybe 10 years. I was blessed to coach 3 years with you at the high school level. It's a blessing. I've learned a lot from you, and working with these kids right now. I'm currently coaching at Loyola. I love coaching the lower levels, coaching the freshmen, coaching the JVs, because that you're setting the varsity up for success when you work at the lower levels. One of my great coaches that played at San Diego State, um, Mike, I think it's Mike Alexander. He coaches and Palos Verdes Peninsula. I think it's a C. Um, I forgot the name of their
Sea
mascot.
Kings.
The Sea Kings. He coaches at lower levels, and that's all he does.
Yeah,
It's and he's one of my great coaches that played with Mike Marshall Falk at San Diego State with Carson Leomidi. So, and there were two people that coached me when I was at junior college, but it's they're the basis of why I also coach. And I've had some great
nice.
coaches like
Yeah, that,
Aaron. You know,
who were some of the coaches that you crossed paths with?
it's Well, I was blessed to be coached by my high school coach, Jim Walsh. I always talk to him, either on Facebook or, it's not, I'm not going to say always, but I do talk to him, here and there. Mike Alexander, Carson Leomidi, I see him on Facebook. There was two guys that played at San Diego State. Imagine a Samoan that weighed 400 pounds running a 4.940. And then my coach Aaron Gideon that played at UCLA, and then Bob Bostad. He actually still coaches offensive line with the Wisconsin Badgers. So I was blessed to be at their practices when they were at the Rose Bowl. And then you think about, I was able to see Russell Wilson before he was actually drafted into the NFL. So
Oh wow, that's right. Because he
so
finished off at Wisconsin, right?
yeah, correct.
Right. That's good stuff. You had a lot of great experiences and a lot of great coaches, and I can
Oh
tell
yeah.
because your passion and your attention. I think if I had to describe your coaching style, your attention to detail um, is what I appreciate most. Because you did your drills, but you didn't just have them run through the motions. You made sure that if it was a mirror drill or if it was working on their steps or their hands, that you were very specific about how you wanted it. Thumbs up or violent punch or whatever it is you were teaching. I really appreciate the fact that you pay so much attention to detail.
Well, my offensive line coach, Aaron Giddens, he was when he played at UCLA and he coached us at Cal State Northridge. He was very detailed and he demanded a lot from us. But and it's the same thing. It's I'm trying to coach these kids what I was taught, and I'm paying it forward by helping them what I was taught. I was blessed to coach a lot of young men. I think one of my best players is a backup center for the Los Angeles Rams, Coleman Shelton. I
He's
had
got a
him when
Super Bowl ring now, right?
yeah, he does. He was on my JV team and he was the nicest kid, Chris. But once he walked on the field, he was an animal. I'd unleash him, and he'd drive block you 10 yards, pancake you, and then pick you up and do the same play again. But yeah, I was blessed. I was blessed to have kids
I
like
don't know
that.
what's more painful, the pancake or the helping you up after the pancake.
Well, he was a good kid, Chris. Huh? He had a big heart.
Yeah. No, but I mean,
Another kid.
I would,
Yeah.
if I'm getting
Uh,
pancaked, I don't want you to help me. You know what I mean? I'll get up on my own. Don't
yeah,
help
but
me after pancaking me, man.
another kid that I was blessed to coach was Simi Moala. You had him on your show a couple of weeks ago.
Oh yeah,
It's
that's right.
yeah,
At
he was
Cathedral High School.
he was a defensive end, and I kept telling him, you got to practice with the offensive line because when you get to college, they're gonna make you an offensive lineman. And he didn't believe me, and now he's playing. He's been playing offensive line. He played for Utah. Now he's at Jackson State. So it's watching him. It's a blessing too.
Yeah, and Simi still wants to play D line. And you know what? He probably could play it at his with his
Uh,
size and ability, but he
it's
just has so much more potential as an old lineman for sure.
oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, he's got those long arms and he's 6'7". I mean, you can't teach that.
No, you can't.
Definitely. We got a couple more questions here,
And
Camacho.
go ahead, Chris.
How did you feel when you finally hung up your cleats? What was that like?
It was tough, Chris. I remember my mom never missed a game. And I mean, even to this day, I get a little emotional talking about this because I remember we were playing Northern Arizona and the coaches gave us a dozen roses and we had to run to the middle of the field and present it to, our parents. And my mom and my brother Mario, my brother George were there and my brother Julian. And I started running to the middle of the field and I stopped because I started crying because I knew that that was the last game my mom was going to watch me as a player. And was it tough? Yeah, it was. But it's a funny thing, Chris. I've coached for 10 years as a coach, and my mom's only made it to 2 games, but as a player, she never missed a game. And I asked her, "Hey, mom, why don't you come to my games as a coach?" Well, and she says, "If you coached at Hawthorne, I'd never miss a game." So, but you're coaching at these other schools, and you got to make your way back home where it all first started. So, but it's she
She got
continues
a
to go to
point.
the games. Oh yeah, and she continues to go to my games. The last, especially La Loyola, and she'll sit in the stands and watch the offensive line because that's what we played. And she'll tell me, well, you need to work on this, and you need to work on that with the boys, and you need to work on this. So she has an eye for the game. Watching us play, especially my younger brother and myself, watching us play since we were kids, and to know the game is pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
Oh, it is definitely.
Let's go on to our next question here, Camacho. How did you transition from the high intensity and high stakes environment of football to regular life?
Uh, it, well, it's believe it or not, Chris, you don't transition. I think you continue, even with coaching, even at work. When you go to work, you're there to work. You're not there to walk around and no, you're there. I see it as when I go to work, I see it as my football field. I know what I need to do. I know how to do it, and I have a certain amount of time to finish what I need to do, and then get to my next stop. And even with coaching, it's the only thing it's when I'm coaching, I talk to the kids and look at them as young men. I don't yell at them. I don't cuss at them. I don't, and because that's the way I wasn't taught. Some of my coaches were tough with me, but it's you have to respect these young men and teaching them and showing them. and explaining it to him, and then reteaching him. And when you see it on the field on game day, it's a blessing, you know. And that intensity never stops once you hit the field. It's still there, you know, with work, with sports, and you know, and any sport, you know. It's I also coach girls, my little girls soccer team, and a lot of the football drills that I do is I transition them to speed and agility on the soccer field. You know, we were
Really?
in first, yeah, we were in first place last spring. In the fall, we were in second place, and right now we're currently in first place with our soccer team. So a lot of the
Can
drills,
you can you share some of those drills that you use from football to soccer? I mean, that's
yeah,
interesting to me.
definitely. Yeah, well, what the first thing I do is I start with ladders, you know, because the footwork is important when it comes to sports. The second thing I do is they're called circle drills. I have them run in circles, and because kids, when you tell them to run straight and then make a left, it's they need to know how to transition by curving and not running straight and then making that left. You know, and that's why we do the circle drill, and then we do a figure eight where they're chasing each other in a figure eight. I teach them how to backpedal. I teach them how to run. You know, when they're running, it's the heels need to touch the butt. I also do mirror drills. Mirror drills as a lineman, it's if you're moving from one, you know, you're mirroring the person that's in front of you. If you walk one way, that person is going to have to shuffle their feet and follow you. In the soccer, it's the same. So it's the same thing. If you have a player in front of you with the soccer ball, you got to break down and you got to challenge them and mirror them and then kick the ball. So it's a blessing. It's I think football, you know, the way we're trained in speed and agility, it's the same for I think soccer, for baseball, for basketball, because you use all that explosion, all that speed and agility and quickness. So I think all that revolves around football.
That's awesome, man. I'm cool. It's pretty cool that you can,
Yeah.
you know, uh, borrow some drills from football and use them for your daughter's soccer team. I think that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Let's go on to our next question. What were some of the things you had to learn to do differently after you retired from playing football?
It's hard to be calm, Chris, because you know in the game of football you're violent and you know you're playing and
Yeah,
you got those 30 seconds and you explode, right? And sometimes you know when you're working or somebody says something that you don't like, you're ready to light a fuse, but you got to learn how to control that, how to be calm,
yeah.
how to transition from being violent to being a nice guy and making sure that everybody likes you, you know?
You just want to make sure in civilian life, you don't want to show them
Yeah.
the dark side, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's
That's the thing about playing, in the boundaries of 100 yards, lined up 5 yards apart, is that there's spurts of violence, and we don't talk about the violence and we don't talk about the pain and things like that. But there's a
no, we
lot of
don't.
aspects that people sometimes miss. I mean, there's a lot of great things about football that I love, of course, um, but I also feel like educating folks on how to, like what you're talking about, how to get your body right and how to get your drills right and how to build good
No.
habits those are life skills, that you can transition into or kind of carry over into other areas, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And you know,
Good
and the
stuff.
most important thing is continuing to work out to be healthy, you know. It's and you know, when we go to the gym, you know, making sure you're working out to make sure you continue to work out the way you used to work out, but not as heavy and not as, you know, not as many reps, but it's to maintain a healthy style and maintain a healthy life.
Definitely. We'll go on to our next question here, Camacho. Do you have any lingering pain from football?
Well, every day. I actually, I actually, I've always complained about my right knee when I was playing at Cal State Northridge, and they kept saying it was tendonitis, and it was tendonitis, and I would ice it, but I was playing a game of volleyball, and I tore my patella tendon, and where your kneecap is at, my kneecap was about maybe 6 inches above the knee, and my muscles were spasming. And when I went into surgery, the doctor said I probably had a slight tear when I was in college. So it's after playing the sports, you got to make sure you take care of yourself. Make sure it's if you hurt yourself, or make sure you follow the doctor's rules. Make sure you follow therapy. Make sure you do what you need to do to continue to maintain a healthy life.
You know, I've heard it described that playing in a football game, if you're playing a whole football game, that's equivalent to having about 5 to 10 car crashes in
Oh
normal
man.
life. Maybe more car crashes, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean,
But
it's
the
one of
thing
the
is,
few sports. I'm sorry, go ahead.
it's your body takes a big punishment playing. It's I always talk to players, my knees. I had one of my friends, Renee Sandoval, said he had arthritis in his neck. It's and all that when you were playing football, it's and all that banging you were doing, and all that hitting takes a toll on your body.
For sure, for sure. I know it feels you know you start getting old as a football player when you start hurting like places like your hip, you know. You know, your low back, your neck. I mean, there's so many areas, but we'll go on to our next question.
Okay.
If you have kids, nephews, would you recommend that they play American football?
Well, I've had two of my nephews that actually played, and one of them is still continuing to play. He's at in Kansas, playing at Independence Community College, and hopefully he can earn himself a scholarship to play football. It's we actually he played in Oklahoma for 3 years, and then his last year, his senior year, he came to play at Narbonne High School, and then trying to earn himself a scholarship. And he's 6'8", 330 pounds. And, we're trying to see, after with the whole COVID thing and, this is his last year at junior college and trying to see if he could play at the next level.
There's no doubt in my mind that your nephew can play the next level. You know, especially he's got the grades, he's got the size. It's just more about sharpening up a little bit of technique here and there. But there's no doubt in my mind he's going to get picked up, and he's already had
Oh, yeah.
offers, so it's just a matter
Yes,
of time.
definitely.
We'll go on to our next question here. Can you share your big three advice for aspiring football players wanting to succeed in American football? What are your
Well,
big three tips?
you've always said as you put God first. I think that's the most important thing. The is you place your family second, and then everything else falls into place. But in terms of football, the first thing you need to do is have your grades. If you don't have the grades, the coaches are not even going to look at you. You have to have a good personality, and the third one, you have to have a good work ethic. And I think that's the most important thing um, that you have to do in order to play. Could you hear me, Chris? I can't. Could you hear me? I don't know.